They tell you that HR is your advocate. They tell you their doors are open for transparency. But I learned the hard way that HR is the company's immune system, and if you're the one calling out the poison, they will treat you like an infection. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on a 12-month battle against a corporate giant. This isn't just about a raise. It's about the psychological warfare of the modern office, the secret spreadsheets they hide from you, and the moment I decided to stop being a victim and start being a strategist. If you've ever felt invisible at work, sit down, because I'm giving you the blueprint of how I broke the machine. Let's go back to the beginning. My office wasn't bad on the surface. We had the free snacks, the modern furniture, and the "We Are Family" slogans on the walls. But under the surface, something was rotting. I watched my mentor, a woman who had given 15 years to this firm, get pushed out in a single afternoon because she wasn't a culture fit. I started seeing a pattern: the inner circle. A group of managers who promoted each other, ignored harassment complaints, and spent the company's travel budget on personal weekend getaways. I was the loyalist. I kept my head down, worked 60-hour weeks, and told myself that if I just produced enough value, I'd be rewarded. I was living in a delusion. I want to talk about something people usually skip: the physical cost. Before I found the courage to fight, I was falling apart. I was waking up at 3 a.m. with my heart racing, checking my phone for emails that felt like threats. I was losing weight, my relationships were suffering, and I was becoming a ghost in my own home. This is what corporate toxicity is. It doesn't just steal your time, it steals your sense of reality. I felt like I was failing, even though I was doing the work of 3 people. If you're in that Sunday night dread right now, listen to me. That isn't a lack of discipline. It's your body telling you that you're in a war zone. I had to hit rock bottom before I could find the strength to climb out. The turning point came when a payroll error landed an internal document in my inbox. It was a mistake that should never have happened. I opened the file, and my world stopped. I saw the salaries of my entire department. I found out that a junior hired someone I had personally trained and whose work I was still correcting was being paid $25,000 more than me. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for 20 minutes. Not because of the money, but because of the betrayal. I realized every great job, and we value you, from my boss was a lie designed to keep me cheap. That was the day the niece employee died. I spent the next 4 months acting as a double agent. I stayed late not to work, but to archive. I BCC'd my personal email on every vague promise. I recorded the dates of every time my boss claimed there was no budget for raises. I was building a mountain of evidence. I knew if I went in alone, they'd call me emotional. So, I started the quiet conversations. I met colleagues at parks and coffee shops miles away from the office. We shared our black box stories. We realized that the company was systematically underpaying every person from a marginalized background while overinflating the bonuses of the inner circle. I didn't just go to a lawyer, I went to a specialist in labor law. I learned the language of constructive discharge and hostile work environment. I learned that HR isn't afraid of your feelings, they are afraid of discovery in a lawsuit. I spent my weekends drafting a 40-page dossier. It had tabs, graphs, and cross-referenced emails. I wasn't preparing for a meeting, I was preparing for a takeover. The HR director tried one last move. She looked me in the eye, lowered her voice, and said, "You know, being this aggressive isn't a good look for your long-term career here." It was the ultimate corporate threat. In the past, I would have flinched. I would have apologized. But that version of me was dead. I looked at her right back and said, "I'm not being aggressive. I'm being accurate. And if my long-term career is based on accepting a lie, then we're both in the wrong room." The silence that followed was heavy. You could hear the hum of the air conditioner. I watched the VP look at the HR director, and for the first time in 5 years, I saw them realize they had lost control of the narrative. They weren't looking at an employee anymore, they were looking at a liability they couldn't afford to ignore. They realized that if I walked out that door without a signature, I wasn't going back to my desk, I was going to the Department of Labor. Their arrogance turned into a desperate scramble to fix the misunderstanding within minutes. Most people think the story ends with a check. But the real victory was what happened after I walked out of that room. Within 48 hours, the secret coalition we built went into action. Because I had broken the seal, the fear was gone. My colleagues weren't whispering in parks anymore, they were speaking up in meetings. The company was forced to bring in an outside auditing firm. The inner circle, the managers who thought they were untouchable, found themselves under the microscope. 2 of the most toxic executives were retired within 90 days. I didn't just get my $25,000 back pay, I tore down the walls of a fortress that had been built on the backs of underpaid talent. I didn't just win a raise, I triggered a revolution that changed the lives of people I barely even knew. I stayed just long enough to see the first round of adjustment letters hit my friends' desks. Seeing their faces knowing they finally had the security they earned was worth more than any bonus I received. I left that company 6 months later. Not because they fired me, they actually offered me another promotion to stay, but because once you see how the machine works, you can't go back to pretending it's a family. I left on my own terms, with my head high and my bank account full. I'm telling you this story because right now, someone is sitting in a cubicle, or a home office, or a break room, feeling exactly how I felt: small, replaceable, ignored. They want you to think the spreadsheet is the truth. It's not. The truth is what you refuse to tolerate. If you are being gaslit, if you are being underpaid, if you are being told to be grateful for a toxic environment, this is your wake-up call. They aren't going to give you your value, you have to take it. I want you to go to the comments right now and type "not anymore." Let that be your contract with yourself. We are building a community here for the people who are done wearing the mask. If you're ready to learn how to spot the signs of a company about to fail you, watch this video next. My name is Maskless, and this is just the beginning.